By the time it was Sunday lunch, I was already sick with worry. Pit of your stomach kind of dread your body knows before your head has a sentence for it. At the time, I was a lawyer at a big firm in London. My best mate, Anna, was a lawyer too. Most Sundays, we'd walk. Hours of it. Hampstead Heath, the canal, wherever. We called them Idea Sundays because the whole point was to talk about how we'd escape. Not strategize, but escape. We didn't want a different role at a different firm. We wanted out. From what? Neither of us could really say. We just knew Monday was coming. That's the part I want to talk about today. Not the leaving, but the Sunday before. Because for years, I thought I had a Sunday problem, a bad mood on the weekend problem, something a holiday or a better attitude or a glass of wine could fix. It wasn't. It was a signal. And I ignored it for nearly a decade because I didn't trust what my gut was telling me. This is the Sunday night test. You've built the career, you're building the portfolio, you're close to freedom. So what now? Welcome to Life After Enough. Money, meaning, and the life you design when work becomes optional. I'm Nick. I'm racing towards early retirement and figuring out who I become when the job no longer dictates what I do with my time. Let's get into it. Let me back up and tell you what Sunday actually felt like in those years. I was a corporate associate at a big London firm, junior end of qualified. By every external measure, I was doing really well. Strong reviews, getting handed the work the partners wanted to keep on their own desks. Star associate, their word, not mine, but it matters in a minute. Sunday afternoon would arrive, and somewhere between lunch and 3 o'clock, the dread would land. Always the same place. Pit of the stomach, sick with worry, the kind of feeling you can't really talk yourself out of because it isn't an argument, it's a feeling. I tried to read. I'd notice I was reading the same paragraph for the fourth time. Sunday evenings were a complete write-off. By Sunday night, I was rehearsing Monday morning in my head. What was on top of the inbox? Who'd be in the lift? Whether the partner I was working for had replied to the email I sent on Friday night. This went on for years. The thing that kept me sane was Anna. Anna was a lawyer too. On our epic walks around London, we'd think of every conceivable thing we could do to not go back to the office the next day. We called them Idea Sundays because the whole point was to talk about how we were going to escape. What we found when we walked, every time, was the same thing. We'd both qualified, we'd hit the milestones, the training contract, qualification, first proper salary, and the moment we did, the milestones went away. Suddenly there was nothing in front of us except this. Until retirement. 40 more years. We'd say it out loud on those walks. Do I really want to feel this way inside for 40 more years? Is that just what adult life is like? Now, if the dread was real and we could name what it was about, the obvious next step is to act. But we didn't. Not for years. We never came up with something more concrete than moving to Calais and becoming pig farmers. And the reason is the second voice. The second voice says, who are you to feel like this? You earn what most people don't earn. People would kill for this job. Get a grip. That voice silences the dread before it can even become a decision. Most people listening know this voice, but I want to tell you specifically where mine came from because the texture matters. Anna and I weren't from law firm families. It was a state school situation, working class towns. No networks, no parents in the city, no one to call when the work was breaking us other than our parents. Most of the people around us at the firm had been at the same handful of private schools since they were 7. They didn't seem to be feeling what we were feeling. They seemed fine. Meanwhile, my family was so proud of me for becoming a lawyer, it almost hurt to think about. So when the Sunday dread showed up, it didn't sound like the job is wrong for you. It sounded like you can't hack it. You don't belong here. You're the one who's going to fall off. It got tangled up with imposter syndrome and self-doubt, and the fear that any day now someone was going to find me out. The cruel bit, and this is the part I want you to hear if nothing else in this episode lands, is that on every external measure, I was thriving. I was the one getting the good work. The work that mattered was landing on my desk. The shame voice was telling me I couldn't hack it, while the phone was telling me I was one of the ones who could. Both at the same time, Sunday after Sunday for years. Anna and I had a workaround for it, and it wasn't a good one. We told ourselves that we were different, better than them, actually, because we didn't want to do this forever. We didn't want to be the partner. We saw through it, us and them. It made the dread feel less like a personal failing and more like superior taste. Looking back, I can see what we were doing. We couldn't admit the dread was breaking us because that would have meant we were the ones too weak for the job. So we converted it into a story where we were the ones too good for it. Same dread, but a more flattering frame for our egos. Both stories, though, are lies. The dread wasn't weakness, and it wasn't superiority. It was just data. But it took me more than a decade to hear it. Quick one before we continue. I send a weekly email every Monday morning that goes deeper than the podcast. It's not a recap, it's a separate idea, usually something more personal, plus a question to sit with for the week. It's free, it's one email, and you can sign up at lifeafterenough.com. Link is in the show notes. Okay, back to it. So how did I finally hear it? Not through therapy, not through journaling, not through any of the things I'd actually recommend now. I heard it because I accidentally created a gap. If you've listened to this show regularly, you'll know by now that I started climbing mountains as a side project. Mont Blanc, then bigger ones. Eventually, a month-long expedition to climb Denali in Alaska. The training for Denali was huge, hours a week, and for the first time in my adult life, work just wasn't my main thing anymore. It wasn't even my second thing. What I noticed in that gap is the part I want you to take from this episode. The dread actually eased, but the job didn't get better. It was the same job. The dread eased because I was finally giving real estate in my own head to something else. The moment that gap opened, I could feel the difference between Sunday with something of my own and Sunday with only the job waiting. And that's when it landed. The dread wasn't a defect in me. It wasn't weakness, and it wasn't superiority. It was the gap between the life I was living and the life I'd actually choose, made visible by my body on the only day of the week quiet enough for the body to be heard. The dread was telling me about the life, not about me. That's a really important distinction. Once you hear it that way, Sunday night becomes a different thing. It's no longer a problem to fix, but rather a signal to read. I'd love to tell you hearing it that way fixed the problem, but it didn't. The shame voice didn't go away, the class thing, the family pride, the who do you think you are, none of that got resolved. It's still here. As I record this episode, the same voice is telling me I'm crazy to be planning a second exit from law, because I'm earning well right now, because last time I tried to leave, I ran out of money within 2 years, because my family already had to watch me come back from one train wreck. What changed isn't whether the voice talks. It's whether I treat what it says as the truth or as noise. The Sunday night test is how I do that on purpose every week. The internet has a name for the feeling I've just been describing. They call it the Sunday Scaries, as if it's a ghost in a children's book, something cute, something everyone has, like hiccups. I don't love the phrase. It does the same thing my shame voice did for 10 years. It makes a serious signal sound like a quirk. Something to laugh about with a colleague on Monday morning when you both pretend you've recovered. Oh God, the Sunday Scaries were brutal last night. And then back in the inbox. But fine, let's use it, because the people who feel the scaries hardest are exactly the ones I'm talking to. So before we go on, I'm not your therapist. I'm just someone who failed this test for nearly a decade, and I can tell you with some precision the 4 ways I failed it. If you recognize any of them in yourself, you've already got most of what you need. The rest is just refusing to do the things that didn't work. So first failure, I medicated. Every Sunday evening, I had a routine. A big roast dinner, couple of glasses of wine, long bath, the ironing, sleep early. None of that is bad on its own. It sounds quite a nice evening. But all of it together was doing one job. It was turning the volume down on the thing my body was trying to tell me. The dread didn't go anywhere, it just got harder to hear. So the first thing to do is to leave one Sunday evening unmedicated. No wine, no bath, no early night. Just sit with it. You don't have to do anything with the feeling. You just have to stop drowning it out long enough to know it's there. My second failure, I treated every Sunday as a one-off. Every week I'd feel it, and every week by Wednesday I'd have rationalized it away. Hard week, bad client, I was tired. By Friday, it didn't exist. The dread came back the next Sunday though, and I treat it like a new feeling every single time. So for this one, write it down. One line, the Sunday it happens. Not what it means, but what it was. Was it your stomach was tight? You snapped at someone over nothing? You couldn't read your book? Whatever's true. Then put your phone away. The line is for you 4 weeks from now, because 4 Sundays worth of notes will tell you what your memory won't. Memory will edit, but notes don't. The third failure, I talked about it with the wrong people. Anna was the right person. She was in the same boat. She had no stake in me staying. Most of the people in my life weren't her. They had stakes. Family who were proud of the career. Friends from the firm who needed the firm to be okay because they were still in it. Every time I told one of them how I felt, they'd reassure me. You're tired. It will pass. Everyone feels like this sometimes. It was all very kindly meant, but lethal to the signal. So in the early weeks, before you've got your 4 Sundays of data, don't tell the people with stakes. Tell no one, or tell an Anna, someone in the same boat, someone with nothing to protect. The fourth failure, and this is the big one, I tried to solve it on Sunday. The dread would land at like 5 in the afternoon, and by 6, I'd be on Rightmove, or scrolling jobs, or Googling master's degrees, or once even pricing up a yurt business in Wales. By Monday morning, the panic had passed, and the plan was forgotten, and I'd convinced myself I was being ridiculous. So when the feeling lands, don't act on it. Don't open a tab. Don't text a friend a half-baked idea. Don't book anything. Just notice it. Write the line. Close the notebook. The decisions don't get made on Test Sunday. Test Sunday is for collecting the data. The decisions get made on a Tuesday afternoon with 4 weeks of notes in front of you and your spreadsheet open. By then, it's a different brain, different stakes, and a better outcome. So 4 failures, 4 corrections, and that's the whole method. If I'd done these 4 things 10 years ago, I think I would have been out of that firm much sooner. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying it because for 10 years, the thing standing between me and a different life wasn't really the money or the opportunity or lacking in courage. It was that I couldn't read what my body was telling me on a Sunday evening because I was too busy medicating it, forgetting it, talking it down, or panic buying yurt businesses. That's why I get to talk about this. I didn't crack the code. I just failed the test in every way it can be failed, and I then save you decades of the same pain. So I think it's really important to pair this emotional signal with money and your financial signal. When I left the law firm the first time, I had the emotional signal cold. Anna and I walked literally hundreds of miles trying to talk our way out of it. By the time I actually quit, the should I leave question wasn't really a question anymore. The Sunday dread had been screaming at me for the better part of a decade. I knew. But what I didn't know was the second, and that's the financial signal. I had about 35 grand in cash, a work pension, and a bit of property equity. I also had a bootcamp business plan I'd written on a train. That, in my head, at the time, was enough. I genuinely believed it. I had FU money. I'd done the brave bit. The numbers, I assumed, would just catch up. But they didn't catch up. I ran out of money inside 2 years and went back to law to repair what I'd done. Listen to episode 9 if you want the full story. The reason I'm telling you that in this diagnostic episode is because I want you to understand exactly what was wrong. It wasn't that I left when I shouldn't have. It was that I had one diagnostic running loud and the other one not running at all. I ran the should. I never ran the can. I felt the dread and I assumed brave was the answer. Sadly, for younger Nick, brave isn't a financial plan. So here's the move. Run the second diagnostic alongside the first. I think the most useful one to focus on here is your coast fire number, the amount you'd need invested today, such that if you never added another penny, it would grow on its own to fund your retirement. If you're below it, you're still building. Above it, you've already done the heavy lifting, and every dollar you earn from here is for the life you want now, not the retirement you'll one day need. It takes 2 minutes. It's not theoretical. Work out your number using the Coast Fire calculator, which is linked in the show notes. It's free and it's awesome. Then run both diagnostics together. 4 Sundays of test data, 2 minutes on the calculator. And then just see what you've got, because the answer isn't one number or one feeling. The answer is the combination, and the combination is what tells you what to do. There are 4 permutations. If your Sunday test is loud and the calculator says you've passed Coast Fire, you're not stuck. You're just scared. A different problem and a more honest one. If your Sunday test is loud and the calculator says you've still got years to grind, you don't have a leaving question, you have a timing question. When and what changes between now and then? Sunday night test is quiet and the calculator says you've passed Coast Fire. Well, this is an interesting one. The thing you thought was a money trap might not be one. Pay attention to what is alive for you in your life right now, because it isn't this exit. If the Sunday night test is quiet and the calculator says your year's out, well, you're in the right place for now. Reassess in 6 months' time. So there's 2 diagnostics and 1 decision. The reason I get to suggest this is not because I've designed it in a workshop. It's because I left without it the first time. And it cost me 2 years and a business. I'd quite like you to not make the same trade. One last thing before I let you go. The Sunday night test will tell you if something is off, but it won't tell you what to build instead. That's a different piece of work, and it's one that almost nobody gets right. When the dread finally gets loud enough to act on, the instinct is to lunge at the exact opposite of whatever you're doing now. Hate the desk? The answer must be the mountains. Hate the suit? The answer must be the beach. Hate the hours? Well, the answer is to do no hours at all. I know this inside and out because I followed it. The first time I left law, I ran straight at the opposite of law and then ran out of money 2 years later. The thing you're actually building isn't the opposite of your current life. It's something more specific than that, and most people have never been taught to see it. That's next week's episode. It's on the concept of optionality being the real asset and the thing that you should be aiming to accumulate. If you felt anything in this episode that you recognize, don't miss this next one. They go together. And before then, here's the question to sit with this Sunday. What time on Sunday does it hit you? Try and notice it. Try and write the line. See it for what it is, information and not failure. If you want the calculator to run alongside it, the link is in the show notes. It's free, it takes 2 minutes, and it's the financial half of the diagnostic. The pair is what moves the needle. And if you want one idea on this stuff every Monday morning, the things I'm thinking about, the things I'm getting wrong, the bits that don't fit in an episode, Speak Monday is my weekly email, and the same link is in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Life After Enough, a podcast about money, meaning, and the life you design when work becomes optional. If this episode made you rethink your future, share it with someone who's starting to question the script too. You can follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Nick, and I'll see you next week as we keep building a life that's truly ours.